So, good morning, everybody. We're just welcoming Humza back in. That's it, because unfortunately, South Africa also has challenging communication. You're back with us, Humza.
Yeah.
Great.
I'm back.
Okay, and if you can put your camera on, unless you're eating your breakfast, Robert, I understand that. It would be great to actually see you. I'm a very intervisual person, so I love to see your smiling faces. But I want to welcome you all today. I am expecting a few more who may come in, and I'm hoping that one of our often here, Jennifer Randive, is going to come in from Dubai, because she gave me some very interesting questions to think about. So really, what I want to do first is to welcome new people to our Wisdom Circle. Susie in Florida hasn't been here before, so welcome. And also Robert hasn't been in here before, and nor has Dylan. I think all of you have been before, and I welcome you back again. And as I say, there could be another half a dozen people we don't know. Very often we have our friend Adolfo Mesa here and Faraz Pera. But here we are, so let's get going. And I first want to take us to what our Wisdom Circle is about. It's about achieving authentic harmony in our world, and in particular between women and men. And I deliberately say women and men as opposed to men and women, because I like doing that. I think it isn't about one or the other, it's about both. But one of our keys that we've been looking at this week in particular, and oh, here's Jennifer, this is great. In particular, Humza and I have been talking a lot about our core message, which is around a joint custody world. How do we build a joint custody world? What does that mean when we look at some of the major issues in the world between men and women, women and men, and also between other diverse factions, and obviously warring countries now? And I sense that, what does it mean to have a joint custody world is the focus of today. What does that conjure up for you, just hearing the words and focusing in especially on men and women, women and men? What is this about? And the thing that came up for me was, why do we misunderstand each other? Why do we argue? Why do we take sides? Is that what it's about? And I welcome Jennifer here. And Jennifer is also part of a network that some of us are members of, which is called the G100. It's one of many networks, but the focus of it is about gender equality. And our cohort is about positive masculinity. And again, what I want you to think about is what all these words mean when you hear them. As a man, when you hear positive masculinity, what does it mean? As a woman, when you hear the word, what does it mean? When you hear joint custody world, what does that mean? I want to just reflect on a fabulous conversation that I had with Humza only last Saturday. And we asked Humza's son, who's 12, what does joint custody world mean? I wonder if any of you can guess what he said, the first words. I'll pause dramatically, because the word he said in asking a 12-year-old what is joint custody world, he said opportunity. And I think that's wonderful, because if we see it as a fight, if we see gender equality or joint custody world as a fight, then it's not going to work. So our main theme is authentic harmony. And what does that mean for all of you? And what does joint custody world mean? That's really what I want to explore this morning. And I want to say thank you to Jennifer, because you put some very interesting questions on a post this week So thank you. And as I'm just asking you, I want you to think about, what does joint custody world mean to you? And maybe put 3 words or 1 word, but not more than 3 words, in the chat. What comes up for you when I say, let's have a joint custody world? Does it propose a difficulty, or does it propose something which is wonderful? So I'd like you just to drop some ideas in the chat. Wholeness, collaboration, fulfill your role, unified approach, nurtured, opportunity to share responsibility, explore, innovate, and create, empowerment, purpose.
Oh.
Thank you. So just another quick test is, what inspire peace and appreciation? What 1 word comes up as a potential difficulty? Ego, selfishness, resistance, lack, insecurity, maintaining your point of view, lack of knowledge.
Hey, Philip, you want to message everyone because you're messaging me privately so nobody can see your...
Oh, unwillingness.
Thanks, Carmen. I'm trying to do that and it keeps bouncing straight back to you. Obviously loves you, my chat.
So if you see the box that says everyone, just make sure that you're on the everyone message. Being right, ego, yes. So we've got a lot of the self-importance. Okay, so exploitation, your word came through, Philip. So it's good to see what the potential barriers may be. Because if our mission is to make sure that everybody understands the value they bring to the joint custody world, I think for me, it's important to know that doesn't mean that we all have to believe the same things. There has to be some core things that we believe in, but there can be a difference. Because one of the major constructs in the world is difference difficult, or is difference fabulous and fascinating and deals with our curiosity and our opportunity? So it's a lot about the language that we use. And I wanted to reference one of the key questions I felt was in your list, Jennifer, which was, where do our points of view come from? So if you think about where the words that you wrote down, where does that come from? So I'm going to just invite Jennifer to reference her first aspect of that is, are they even ours, or do we adopt them because we're part of the environment we grow up in? So Jennifer, let me invite you to share with the group your meaning behind that, because I think this is important, is where do our views come from that become misaligned and potentially destroy what we want to bring in harmony?
First and foremost, thank you very much, Pauline, for inviting me to this amazing group of lovely people. I think I met them before as well, but some new beautiful faces. And thank you for the question. The way that I look at it, and the way that I have actually had to get out of my own way, was we were brought up as kids having to think in a certain way. Okay, we had to actually conform to what mom and dad or teachers or grandparents actually said to us. And after some time, it really becomes what our operating system is. How we think, how we feel, how we act actually is predetermined in those early stages. What I had to learn which was not very pleasant because I had to get out of my own way, was to actually ask myself, is this thing really working for me? Do I have to oppose everything? Or am I to actually stop and listen to what is actually going on? And does it really serve me? Because things are changing, people are changing, how we operate is changing. The question is our way of thinking changing? That is why I put up those things, because I think it's about time that we wake up, shake up, to actually show up authentically, whether it's actually working. It's not about making anyone right or wrong. It's about, is this thing working? Is it taking us forward? Or are we stagnant? Because we're so busy trying to maintain our point of view as the right one, so that
Yes.
everyone else is wrong, you know? So it's a bit ridiculous to actually carry on that way, because where we are right now has brought us to that way of thinking. That's the reason. And if we have to elevate that kind, or even get out of it, we have to be vulnerable enough to actually let our barriers down, so actually we can see what is going on. And is it actually working for us or working against us? And that's where it is that I believe.
Yes. Thank you, Jennifer. I think that's very relevant. And then we'll get on to some other of your questions. But I think there is something around how we've lived our life to date, and whether or not we hold on to the negative parts of that or the stuck parts of that. I was very impressed with a very lovely writer called Dr. Anita Sanchez. She wrote a book called The Four Sacred Gifts. I could highly recommend to everybody. And it was talking to indigenous tribes across the world about what are the major healings that we can do. And the first healing, there were 4 sacred gifts, 4 healing. But the first one was to forgive the unforgivable. And I just want you to pause and think about what that means in the context of the dangers of the negative words we wrote up about a joint custody world. If we can't forgive some of the unforgivable, war obviously being the most devastating, abuse, violence, domestic violence, whatever it is, suicide, mental health, all of these things which we have in our world now. So how can we forgive the unforgivable? I just wanted to reference that. The other 3 gifts are hope, hope, healing, and I have to go and search the book because I can't remember the 4th one. My apologies. But that first one really struck me as the most important to reference, the forgive the unforgivable, because we know there are a lot of statistics around how much abuse of women there is in the world, as well as many other negative and terrible things. And what we have been doing in our wisdom circles, not only in this World Wisdom Circle, but those of you who are new to this, in our G100 groups, we have been running wisdom circles in different parts of the world, in California, in the USA, in the UK, in South America, in Africa, in Indonesia, in Asia. And those conversations have been interestingly significant similarities when we're focused on the issue of inequality between men and women. And for me, it's not just about women empowerment, although there's an enormous need for empowerment. It's what I call value creation. And I just want to reference this philosophy because it's core to everything that we do if we're going to create this, which is a joint custody world. So this cycle, if you can see in the background, is very simple. The green arrow is you and only you. You own this arrow, this value. Whatever your value is, your life experience, everything you learned when you were a kid, all the things that you were brought up with, your schooling, anything that happened which was negative or positive, everything in you, your star sign, your astrological chart, whatever it is you want to do to find out more about yourself. This is your value here. And this is what we take ownership of here. And all the choices we make and all the decisions, that's our life journey. And the blue arrow is every relationship you have. It's what you take into every relationship. What value do you take into the relationship? And if that's a negative value, what responsibility do you take to align yourself with that person or take them out of your life? And I don't mean in any vicious way, but there is, we don't need to hold on to negative relationships. We may be in a negative situation, but the value we have here is what we hold on to. And we know that today, there are incredibly horrible, violent things going on in certainly in the Middle East and lots of places in the world. And how we take responsibility for our choices and how we love unconditionally for ourselves means that we can create this joint custody world. So for me, the joint custody world is this place here where we bring everything that we learned in our life. And as Jennifer said, how do we get out of our own way when we're traveling around this cycle being negative? We need to travel around this cycle being positive about whatever is thrown our way. And that for me is about having an understanding of our masculine and feminine energy and all the work that we know that is difference, and understanding the difference is amazing and full of potential. And as from the sun said, it's opportunity. This is our opportunity. But we need to do the journey here in order to make it here. So where we look at the world in crisis, and we know there's breaking down of relationships here, there are various aspects that we want to improve. And I think that the next question that you asked on that post, Jennifer, was really struck me, is that what is relevant and what is helping us? You made a reference to that. What can we do to get out of it, and what can we do to change? So I don't know what all the solutions are. All I know is that we can create all the positive words that you were posted in there. And that's great. Hadassah is amazingly good at following up for me. Thank you, my darling. So the gift of forgiving the unforgivable, the gift of unity. So how do we come together without losing our identity? And then the gift of healing and the gift of hope. And I'd like just to reference what I learned from Anita, where she said, in talking to the elders of indigenous tribes, there were 4 major tribes at the beginning of time: the red tribe, the black tribe, the white tribe, and the yellow tribe. And these tribes were sent to the end of the world to be learning about their arena. So we know where those areas are: yellow, black, red, white. But the thing that was missing was that the elders said to the tribes, come back and tell us what you learned. And that's what we didn't do. So we didn't come back and learn what we can all share now across the world. So that's the big picture. So I want to pause there and invite any of you to ask a question about where we got to so far. And then I'd like to have some breakout rooms. So are there any questions just at the moment before we go into a breakout group? And we're going to ask the question, how can we get out of our own way? Are there any questions before we do that? So when I say that the goal is authentic harmony, 1, 2, 4, and when we got 6, 12. So I'd like to, I'm going to do this. Okay. 1, 2, 3. If I'm going to make 4 breakout rooms. And Philip was very good with me. He said, I need to be very clear about my expectations of what you're doing. So Philip, you can remind me what it is. The question is, how do we get out of our own way? And I'm going to give you 8 minutes, if that's okay with you. Yes, 8 minutes. And I want you to choose a speaker in your group to come back and share 3 ideas about how we can get out of our own way. So it's actually, it sounds negative, but it's positive. I want to know how you get out of our own way in the world and move towards authentic harmony. You can picture it as if you've got an orchestra or whatever illustration you want to use, but how do we get out of our way and move to authentic harmony? Is that okay with everybody?
Mhm.
Excellent. Okay. Let me know if you've all found your room.
Oh.
Hi, Carmen. I like your backdrop.
Dr. Maureen, I vote that you be our speaker.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Okay, Christine, with that, Christine had voted.
Yes, absolutely.
Christine voted you, Carmen, before when you left. She said,
Where are the other rooms?
They're obviously up to their minute, aren't they?
It's the boys' room. There they are. There they're coming. Okay, welcome back. Welcome back. I'm excited to hear what you have to say. So I've got the rooms here. We've got room number 1 was Clara, and Susie. Who's
And we had Hamza, Hadassah.
Sorry?
Hadassah was also in our room.
Oh,
Before us, yeah.
who's your speaker?
I think I was nominated. Is that fair to say, ladies?
Okay, so three actions.
Okay, so summing up, they all fell beautifully. All the things everyone said fell under 3 key headers. So we had showing up, digging deeper, allowing vulnerability, and questioning more deeply into things. So that was like our number 1 header. We had really challenging ourselves, understanding our own unique blueprint, what triggers us, what are our responsibilities to manage, and really being authentic with that. And then I think the final piece that we all agreed was that showing up in unity as the orchestra, recognizing each of the pieces that we all play, that we can find the harmony for that authentic collaboration. And the key that was kind of weaving through all of that was our ability to be present and listen deeply so that we can actually receive what another person is saying. And if we get triggered, is to learn to be in neutrality with that so that we can kind of question in ourselves before we respond rather than react. So I think I added that a little bit, but I think that was what we kind of went into. Thank you, ladies.
Great, that was agreed by your
Yeah, no, that was everything we all shared. We all shared very, very similarly, actually. We just said it in beautifully, said it in different ways. So that was the orchestra playing, I think. Yeah.
the violin. Fantastic.
Yeah.
And I think that message about really listening deeply, and even when we are in a situation which is dare I say traumatizing, is an unexpected challenge, maybe I've had that in the last couple of weeks, is how we pause and listen. Fantastic.
Yeah, well, I think vulnerability and Pumza share deeply into that as well, is when we dare to be vulnerable, which we're not very good at doing, let's be honest. There's the whole dare I say it, and I don't want to get cream, but there's a lot of posturing going on in the world, and I think sometimes that energy doesn't actually help, whereas if we're vulnerable, what's the
and being okay.
allows...
Thank you. So let's have a group 2. Group 2 was Carmen, Christine, and Maureen.
yes, I was appointed to share. So we had a great group. We had a good sharing, and what we came up with is that the first thing is our mindset, the mindset that we get into when we start sharing with each other. The mindset, we think, ought to be one of valuing the differences, each other's differences, that we recognize within ourselves that the sum of the part is equal to the whole, meaning that we each bring something to the table. And if we show up valuing and respecting each other's differences, we will then be able to suspend what we think we know, not forget about what we think we know, but suspend it for a moment so that we can listen deeply to what the other is saying. That's the essence of valuing another person's difference. The next thing is we need to be 100% present and focused and be all in when we show up, because we are all on equal plane. And then the beautiful part of everything that we said is that the more we focus on our own well-being and how we are showing up in the world, making our own bed, like Carmen put it, focusing on our own happiness and focusing on being the best version of ourselves. Once we show up in a group and we each shows up with being the best version of ourselves, can you imagine what a symphony that would be when we take care of our own well-being and each one comes in well, present, whole, happy? We will have a wonderful orchestra. So that's what we talked about.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. I want to share something in the chat that this is a very simple mantra for BEST. Be extraordinary starting today. You can all remember that. And that was given to me by my son-in-law when I was trying to be very fancy and decide on some kind of business blah, blah, blah acronym. He said, no, just be extraordinary starting today. Keep that in mind, even when hardships come. So our third group was two of our new guys, Dylan and Robert and Chital. So who was your speaker?
Yeah. Oh,
Dylan, Robert?
Dylan, you want to
Peter?
start? Or, okay, I will. Being a teacher, we are happy to talking about this. Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
So we had a very good discussion amongst ourselves. And please, my friends, correct me if I'm missing something. But we mainly focused on educating parents, because parents also needs to change their mindset, because for the equality of gender or having a harmony in community and society, basically parents also should be learned or educated is not through the books. They all go to universities and colleges, but the social learning is very essential, where the both gender are treated equally at home. They grew up equally at home, so that they become the asset to community, asset to society, wherever they live. And that's how our main focus was, to educating parents, educating our elders.
Yes, that's fantastic. And any other comments, Dylan and Robert? You both new to this.
I liked a comment that Dylan mentioned about there are plenty of folks who don't grasp that this is an issue. They're oblivious, and I'm choosing provocative words on purpose, clueless or just oblivious to the fact that this gender equality exists. Because so Dylan and I both have 3 older sisters. I have 3 older brothers as well. I'm the youngest of 7, but growing up, when you have women in your life, so prominent in your life, I think we are vulnerable in a good way in being oblivious to, wow, a lot of families are not treating siblings the same. So the cluelessness or obliviousness that other children have a different experience, I think was worth noting. So Dylan, I appreciated that comment. And then the other thing I remember was, it's one thing for all of us to be in conversations like this. The bigger challenge is getting the right message to, and again, I'm using a provocative word, opponents. Who has the incentive for the status quo? So what is the right message? What's the right channel? the right
Yes.
timing, without boiling the ocean, what are the right interim steps and messages for opponents to receive, so that they can sign up for this?
Yes, and thank you for that, Robert. I think that's really important. And just briefly before I get on to group 4, because I know, Susie, you have to go in a minute. It's very important about this mix that we grew up with. I think it referenced to what Jennifer's saying is what has been our life experience. I was one of 4. I have 2 brothers and a sister, and I was in the middle. That experience is going to be different to other groups. And when we've done large programs, Philip and I have run many programs across the world. When you get, you do human geography, you get people to stand in groups where, are you an only child? Were you child of 2, 3, 4? What was the mix? And then you get people to converse from where they've come from. It's a fascinating, way that we learn about ourselves as men and women, boys and girls. I would have had a different experience to my older brother or my younger brother. So we all have a different experience from our life with boys and girls, men and women. I went to an all-girls school. You might have gone to an all-boys school. You might have gone to a mixed school. All of those things will impact us. So in authentic harmony, it's not just mixing boys and girls, men and women. It's the mix of boys together. Men are not all the same. Women are not all the same. So I just wanted to make, that's a really good point. Thank you, Robert. And I want to just go to our last group, which was Jennifer, Philip, and Musay. Who's your speaker?
Yeah, I can. I am.
Okay, Musay, go for it. What are your 3 points?
Basically, with what Jennifer was summing it up, collaboration, by including authentic harmony will be key. Like sometimes we come to a podium that we only have the answer for everything, but having everybody's ideas and inputs will create innovation and inspiration and all of those things. And collaboration is key with authentic harmony. That's what it pretty much is.
Okay, and anything else on a very practical level about what we actually do from the other?
Jennifer probably can add that.
Because the reason I ask is that I think we all want collaboration, but what does it look like to you? Because collaboration can mean something different. And just to reference that, if we're understanding our own natural bias, so men and women are different types of men are different types of women are different. And as you know, we work with gender dynamics, archetypes. There's a natural viewpoint on the word collaboration. So if we take men might see collaboration in a very straight line, more boxed manner than women who are very circular and see everything in a chattable process. So collaboration means something different to all of us. And when I was a kid, because I was in the middle of the 4 siblings, I always felt that I was in a collaborative process. I'm not sure my elder brother saw it the same way because he was out the front. So we all have a different perspective on every single word that we say, even the word authentic and the word harmony. So I'm not supposing we all see it the same. So collaboration is really important, but I come back to this idea, when do we misunderstand people? Sometimes we misunderstand people and we also make assumptions about what is going to be the way forward. So how do we, there was something that was just said in the last group. I can't remember what it was now, but it was the idea that, are we always hearing the truth? Because the truth might not be what we're actually seeing. So the way that I saw my brothers and sisters was different to the way they saw me because of the nature of the family. We were only 8 years apart from my older brother to my younger brother. So that's also the spread in your family is different. I went to an all-girls school. If you go to a mixed school, which is the majority of schools, I think certainly in America and in England, it's a different experience. So how do we actually understand all these nuances? And Jennifer, you wrote here, what if vulnerability is superpower, and how can we use that to our advantage? Explain, because I agree.
The simple thing is this, that if we've been maintaining that we are right, that someone is wrong, or if we have been maintaining even our point of view of what gender equality is or gender parity is, then there's hardly any way, because we will be again pulling in information of what has happened in the past. Okay,
yes.
We will keep on talking about how women have been tortured, how this is wrong, and how you cannot change anything that has happened in the past.
No.
So we've got to stop talking about that, quite honestly, and look at what it is that we are here to be and do differently. So that's one aspect. The second aspect is that if we are really looking at shifting and changing, and that's where vulnerability, I consider that my superpower, that is how I get out of my own way. So if I have to maintain and go on fighting, this having to be right is a fight.
Yes.
We don't need to fight. It's not getting us anywhere. Okay. And if we really choose to be vulnerable, is to stop it. And only we can stop ourselves. No one can force you to change at all. You've got to take the lead to change, period. And if we can stop, and then only we can listen, and then only we can actually make a difference and take action. Because
Absolutely.
otherwise, we're going in this conundrum. It's like being on the freaking hamster wheel and getting nowhere. Literally nowhere.
Absolutely. And I think this is the thing about what is my father-in-law, who passed now, but he say, we always trying to make things right, but are we actually asking the right questions? Are we
Exactly.
actually moving beyond what has been around forever? And we know that as women in many, many, many networks over the last 100 years, but certainly in my last 30 years of studying women empowerment groups, we have gone a long way. We have got more rights, more places in the boardroom, etc., but it's not fast enough. And so I ask, is that actually the right way? Trying to get equal numbers, trying to get into the boardroom. Maybe we need to change the system in which we experience economic sustainability and family joy, those two things coming together in a different way. Yes.
Yeah, and also to just comment on what Jennifer said, I just jotted down two things. In my groups, what's been coming up is just because it's always been done that way doesn't mean it's right. And I think when you keep a lid on something, and somebody mentioned about parents, and it's the way we've done it, blah blah blah, but actually that's not allowing a space for fluidity and movement and new ideas. And in the being vulnerable to say, well, I used to say to my sons, well, I don't have all the answers. I might be your mom, but I don't have all the answers. And if you can come up with some ideas, I'm open, because we all need that kind of stimulation. And I think in our groups with the men, particularly, the men have also talked about toxic masculinity from the top down, where things can't move then because there's this very set idea, and then that is rigid, doesn't make it right or healthy. And I think that's what all the men overwhelmingly in my groups, is the UK chair, was the overarching theme that came through for men. And of course that also impacted women, because it's always been done that way, and we're in that way of thinking, and blah blah blah, women are like this, then there was no fluidity across. So I think as we've become vulnerable, and that some of the men shared incredibly vulnerably, and it was so insightful for the women to hear that perspective, because again, women have always assumed, well, men are like this.
Well, that's one of us. I think one of the big challenges is generalizations. All women are this and all men are that. Although there are some baseline aspects of behavior that we can study, as we do in the gender dynamics. And I was just reflecting on how do we stop looking backwards all the time? But we do, Fumza, yes, I want your view, is we do need to look back. History is always useful in order to go forward, but not to stay in the past. So Fumza, we've had lots and lots of talks. Susie had to go, so thanks for being here, Susie. Fumza, you've...
Dr. Pauline, I think Dr. Maureen was first, and then I'll follow right after him. She raised her hand first.
Oh, okay.
Yes, thank you, Professor. What I was hearing in all of this is that each of us needs to know our own biases.
Yes.
I just wanted to say that we need to examine our biases and know our own biases. And it is always so difficult to lead ourselves. The hardest person to lead is ourselves.
Mm.
True.
Yes. I think that's a really, really good point. And when I look at the work that I'm doing with the gender dynamic archetypes, there are natural biases that are misunderstood by other archetypes. When we're in a tense, stressed, or upset moment, we see things very differently, which goes back to the point of pausing and everything. So Fumza.
Pauline, maybe my response is not to your question. There's one significant contribution that was made by Chitra Lecha. I may be butchering your name, sorry about that. That, you know, we often overlook because we always think that change is going to happen amongst us and particularly in professional environments. And she nailed it on the head. She said, let's take the parents, because those are normally the preservers of culture.
Yes.
And a lot of what is part of our belief system is often informed by culture. So if I'm looking at the African home, you know, we can have all the conversations in the corporate environment, but those men are influenced by the conversations that happen back home in the kraal with other men. And it's amazing how strong those beliefs are, and they are mirrored in a corporate setting in the boardroom. So let's not forget the preservers of that culture. I think I mentioned to you an incident where one of the most progressive pastors was meant to be ordaining a female pastor. And, you know, the ceremony was going well, but behind the scenes, there was a recording of what he was actually saying to other men and, you know, ridiculing the woman, you know, and ridiculing the whole kind of progression of female pastors, like saying, how can someone with big boobs be praying over me? And that is actually the part, I mean, those are the conversations that we really need to get to the bottom of, because those are so core to how that culture, tradition, the beliefs, and everything being mirrored now in our world.
Absolutely. And it's such an important point we talked about, wasn't it? The cultural, shifting a cultural norm is huge. And that is what we are dealing with. Philip.
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to share a couple of headlines and a short story based on experience. And one of the ways I think we can all help with this is when we don't understand what someone is saying. My experience of life, both in corporate and outside, is that someone will say something and everyone will have their own view as to what that really means, but they won't necessarily agree that that is what the person who made the statement or asked the question or says, will you do? They don't actually understand that is what's meant. So in a corporate environment, what happens is you go to a monthly meeting and you agree all sorts of things. And when you go back the next month, the chair says, so have you done this? And the person says, oh, well, I didn't know I was supposed to do that. And that's because there's a misunderstanding between what's said and what's heard. So one of the things I wanted to share was about the nodding of the head, because men tend to nod to say they agree, and women tend to nod to say they've heard or they've understood. I.e. men, brackets, this does not mean they agree. It just means they've understood. So what happens in meetings is that a man says, right, this is what we're going to do, aren't we? Da-da-da-da-da, thing. And the woman nods her head and says, yes, I've heard what you said. I don't agree with it in the slightest, but I've heard it. But the man sees the head nod and thinks, oh, she agrees. Perfect. So I think one of the ways we can all help is to actually question when we don't understand. And the second way to help is to clarify exactly what we have agreed to do or not do before we all depart from having a meeting or being in a group. And the two headlines I wanted to share is something I called Velvet Line Rut, which is something Pauline and I have discussed a lot, but it's about being comfortable, knowing that you're uncomfortable, heading towards a brick wall, and it will hurt when you get to the end of it. But you get in the velvet line rut because it's comfortable, because you know what's going to happen. So it feeds your need to be safe, even in an unsafe environment, but you're still in the velvet line rut. And part of helping yourself to understand you and others is getting out of that, not being in the rut. And the second thing I wanted to share was something I call line in the sand. And I've shared some of this before, but essentially this is about accepting a position that says, my past is my past, my experience is my experience, I value it, I treasure it, sometimes maybe not all of the awful bits, but it is what it is and has brought me to who I am. And you then draw a metaphorical line in the sand and you take one step beyond the line. You are now the freest person you can be. You can choose anything you wish to have or to have happen to you. And when you've done that process, if you wish, you can step back behind the line and regain all your pasts, or you can stay beyond the line and decide what your new future might be. That, for me, is how we move towards authentic harmony. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. And I like what Robert wrote here, don't let your past penalize your present or future. I think that is such an important point that we're at in the world, where things are looking very crazy out there on many, many fronts, over and above the marginalization of women and girls. So we really need to change things in the world. My belief is that if we create peace between women and men, that we will more likely get to peace in the world. So that's why harmony is so important. And I do applaud the idea of understanding the education of parents and teachers is going to be vital. What if we really understand that your experience is not you? Jennifer writes, yet you are the creator of that. And you see that in everything you choose. See, if you see that, you can choose something different. For me, this value creation cycle has really helped me in my life to understand how to get past times when I felt out of control and not understanding other people or not understanding the situation I'm in, is to go back to this idea of the value cycle, and also this idea of what's core. And this is something Philip created for us in Corporate Heart, which is core is choice, ownership, responsibility, energy. So sitting in exactly that space of choice about, I'm crossing that line in the sand. I'm taking ownership of everything I am, warts and all, cold sores and all, everything about me, everything in my life at this date. And I'm taking responsibility to listen, to pause, to be vulnerable, to be proactive, to understand my gender type, whatever it is. And then knowing that everything in the world is energy, everything. As Einstein says, you can't diffuse energy, you can only change it. Energy is everything that we have in our world. And as we look at now where we are, I wanted to spend this last part on, if we are to have aligned messages, if we are the orchestra of authentic harmony in our own respective places in different parts of the world, with different issues, different cultural norms that we know are attacking us or not, or people around us, how do we go forward to bring a collective voice together? and we've talked about this before in the Wisdom Circle, and I've been looking in my mind about and searching through my networks as I explore through LinkedIn and other connections that we're making in different ways. Fomza and I are looking at some connections of an empowered network in India, a different one to the G100. There are lots of different connectivities that are happening around, and that may be in our own countries or it may be globally. So I think it's local and global. But we want to get the messages out, and whether that's on mainstream TV or it's in our local arena. I think I would like to look at how we can pool resources and pull these things together. Dylan, who's just had to go, but Dylan actually interviewed me a week ago, and I believe his recording will go up on Saturday. He's running a podcast in Nevada. I don't think it's for only people in Nevada. So again, where are the avenues that we can get the messages out there through a podcast, through some media. Many of you may have seen or not. I did an interview with Dr. James Cooley. He runs a 5-day-a-week and sometimes 6-day-a-week online live interview, and he's welcome all of you to be a speaker should you want to. So just connect with me if you would like to do that for your own specific message, but if it can be a message which is part of this authentic harmony movement, that would be great. And he has 21,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel. So what we're looking for is where places where we can get our message out and keep on repeating authentic harmony. So rather than fighting for equality, we are moving towards that authentic harmony. If we have harmony, we don't have harm. Interesting that the word harm is in harmony. And we do reference the lighthouse, notice the lighthouse on Philip's screen, and the idea that we're shining a light and keep on finding those consistent messages. I found this today. This was a picture. I'm not expecting you to read it all, but I will make it. It's got a lighthouse in the middle, and I was writing it as a way of understanding my own messages one day. So I actually drew a lighthouse, and I put on here, imagine that everybody is part of the unity, love, kindness within us, synergy of women and men, connectivity, rebirth. The more that we write, the more that we speak, the more that other people hear us, the difference we will make in the world. So I also was thinking, I know it's really annoying having lots of WhatsApp groups or whatever, but maybe to have a Wisdom Circle WhatsApp group that we can place some of these potentials in. There may be another Dr. James Cooley out there that will take us on another platform. I was talking to a lovely man called Shanak Shah, who was going to hope to come today, but he's in India, and he had cancer and lost his voice and now speaks through a microphone attached to under his chin, but he is talking to people, millions of people across the world, and loves the idea of talking also about what we're doing in authentic harmony. So the more we can get the messages out there, the more we can change everything. Sometimes it's drip feed, other times we need to have a really prominent person helping us. And I've mentioned this before, but like Sir Richard Branson, who is one of my heroes, or somebody who can take us to new places. Robert, you put a message here. I believe that adopting an entrepreneurship 101 approach is worthwhile. A business plan, including financial impact of authentic harmony in interim milestones, small wins, market competition. Yeah, and this is where we need to be putting this all together. So maybe I can talk to you about that as well, Robert. And it will fit with some of the work I do in entrepreneurial education. We all come to this voluntary, and so I always respect all of your intentions to be here. And those of you who are new to this, I thank you as well. One of the things I really feel is important is to keep on understanding ourselves. So I just want to share with you that Christine and I are putting on an extraordinary event on November the 1st, and it's going to be called The Art of the Archetypes. So it's the art of the gender dynamics archetypes, and we're inviting you to join us if you would like. It is a paid event, but you're going to actually use paint and coloring and actually create your own images of yourself. Christine runs her own company called Painting Your Heart.
Yes.
And I just think it will be an extraordinary way of getting in touch with ourselves and each other, and inviting other people in just to understand. And those of you who don't understand the archetypes yet, then please come and have a one-on-one with me and get to know my magic chart here, which I'm not going to go through right now. But it's really important that we understand the subtle differences, and actually then what we have more in reference, the natural biases, and not only for our gender dynamics in types, but obviously our different experiences of life, our cultures and our different generations and different preferences all the way around. So I wondered if anybody had a thought on where you might offer a suggestion that we can get our message out, as I suggested, like Dr. James Cooley. Has anybody else got a specific platform or connection that they want to bring to this party, where we could actually send a coherent, unified, authentic harmony message out? And probably not political, but you know.
I've just had a bit of a brainwave. I forgot somebody in my circle. She runs a very prolific platform. Her name's eluding me right now. I think she might even be in one of our WhatsApp groups. Pauline.
Who was that?
Gosh, she has got like it's not a major TV channel, but she does do a talk show from a studio. Oh, something like, it's a double name. I can't remember if it's Sarah Jane or.
Okay. Well,
and she's done a lot recently.
Well, let's have a look for her. I don't know what it doesn't come to mind, but the other one I was thinking of in England is the Parliament group, the women British World or Business World. There's a group that works out of Westminster in England, a prominent group of women, and we're not just looking for women's groups necessarily, but places maybe on the entrepreneurial side. It's somewhere where we could actually promote the message of authentic harmony as well as through the G100. Because the G100 is a very specific network, and that's great. But I was wondering if there's any more business-like networks that we could connect to.
I'll give it some thought. There's a couple of percolating, but I don't know how big the audience is at the moment. But what about, I know it sounds crazy, but what about Women's Hour? You know, Women's Hour are always looking for really interesting speakers, you know.
Yes, possibly. Let's have a look what Philip's writing here. Music.
Yeah, one of the things you're talking about always is how does the orchestra come together? And
yeah,
one of the questions posed, and it was by Dr. Maureen, was to do with if people have different cultures, different ways of seeing the world, etc., etc. So the orchestra for me is taking all of those individual disparate elements, and it brings it all together under a leader. So there's a conductor, but each part of the orchestra plays a different version of what's in the whole score, and they play at different times and at different notes, but they all come together and they all perform, even though they don't have each other's parts. And I think that's how authentic harmony can come together. It's not about a whitewash of these are the beliefs, and if you don't believe these beliefs, then you can't be authentically in harmony. It's much more about these are the things that form part of your experience and how you live your life. And if they can harmonize, even if they're diagonally opposite with another group of people who have a different part of the orchestra score, then that will produce harmony. It might sound a bit awful, it might not totally work first time out, but it's about the acceptance that by coming together and looking at doing something, whatever that might be, it allows the piece to be performed.
Well, I like that. And I think it's about branching out and doing these different things. I noticed that Robert's put there conscious capitalism. There's also other organizations like that are on the peace side, which aren't too traditional, like World Beyond War. And looking at, that's what I'm looking at now is where is it different outlets? So for instance, the Commonwealth, I've also put up the link for the program that Christine and I are launching. I think it's about doing things differently. In fact, what came to mind, and I'm sure you've seen this, have you seen these videos where somebody, I saw it the other day, they were in Times Square in New York and they're playing a piano and people start watching, and then somebody else turns up with a guitar, and then somebody turns up with some violins, and actually it's all been orchestrated, but it looks as if it's suddenly come together. Have you seen that? I saw one recently, and they end up with a full orchestra in the middle of Times Square, all the traffic stopped. They've obviously organized this, but everybody just appears as if by magic. And there's something about that is resoundingly unified. And all the people.
There was a guy who did that on the telly. He brought orchestras from all around the world and brought them together with their unique style and flavor on a particular song. I can't remember his name now, but it was really popular when it was happening through lockdown, actually, lots of individual groups. And it was really beautiful, actually, to listen to.
Oh, well, it reminds me of obviously the famous song, The World to Sing. Remind me, Coca-Cola.
Oh yeah, I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. Gosh, that one comes back very easily.
And I mean, we've got Carmen here, who's also in the entertainment world. I mean, I've asked my husband to write a song for authentic harmony because he does write songs. So I'm trying to encourage him to do that. He wrote one originally for Smiles Emerging from the Darkness, but if there's something which we could have as almost like a flagship piece of music, or it's a flagship symbol, you know, that's what I'm thinking is, and it would suddenly appear in South Africa or Ghana or Chile or Bangladesh or London or LA, you know, and then people start recognizing it and saying, right, that's the song, that's that authentic harmony song. It just struck me when I watched this video of all these players in the middle of Times Square. It was a really very emotional, and you just watching all the people just passing by on a normal day with their cameras, like, oh my God, is this really happening? And am I really in this experience? And it lifts people totally. That's what we need to be able to do. So it's just, I'm putting a thought out there because if we can start doing that, we can start getting some reference points coming to us. And then I think, how about a song, a pin, a brooch? John Lennon, he's dead.
Well, no, I was thinking of John Lennon's song, you know, that he wrote that everyone still plays about, you know, if what's the one it goes? Oh God, I'm not very good at singing, but imagine all the people living in blah, blah, blah. Everyone around the world knows that song, but it's finding someone, you know, now that we could.
Oh, yes, and it needs to be culturally unified, neutral. So it's about humanity. I mean, I love that song about, you know, when you when you see the world from a distance. Anyone remember that song?
No.
From a distance, there is harmony. That song.
Yes, that one.
Yeah.
But it's something like that, isn't it, Carmen? It's something, it's like painting our archetypes. It's about making this energized in a visual way. And that's what I've been thinking about a lot in terms of my own mission and business as well. So I want it to be a benefit to everybody. So yes, maybe there's something that we can think about for next time.
I mean,
So
I do know through my sister, I know a lot of jazz musicians who are connected to other musicians who are connected to some pretty awesome people, but it's just whether they'll, you know, come on board with that. But you never know, if you plant the seed, somebody might go, yay.
Well, if you think about, you remember when after Live Aid were...
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, Live Aid. Yeah.
Because music is a great... music is such a great bringing people together, and there's got to be something. It's almost like if we all set our words out in this way, and you just talked about it to other people, something will turn up. I say music and dancing, energy, somehow creating this harmony across the world. That's what I see. We've got so many major things going on in the Middle East, and everybody's saying, you know, it's the start of World War III. I'm not going to let that happen. I don't think any of you want that to happen. So it's got to come from us, and thinking about vibrations. We're all energy sources, and as long as we can vibrate out, even in our own way, and it might be that there are some musicians that will come and help us.
That's what I was saying. You know, my sister knows some amazing musicians, and I bet you they'd be up for it.
Yes, I mean, that's the thing with what's that, Philip? I can't see it.
Poppy.
What?
The Royal British Legion Poppy for Remembrance Day.
Yes, so it's something that brings us all together.
Yeah, something that people recognize the symbol, even if they don't agree with it. It's a symbol.
Yes. So what I'm going to invite you all to do is to think about that, and when we meet in the second Wednesday of next month. But if I may, I may whether it's on a WhatsApp group or the LinkedIn group, whatever, some place where we can put these things together. And maybe in our own networks, we look at who we know and who would likely to be wanting to support what we're doing. We can report back. So I know that Fumza and I were going to meet on Friday with this lovely group in India. There's all sorts of things going on. I want to get some of these men's groups involved as well, because I think there's lots of in like the conscious capitalism, all sorts of things. There's so much we have in the world. We've got everything we need. That's the thing that it gets me. Everything is there. We just need to be sending that message out for authentic harmony. And it is that basic line. It's not fighting. We're nurturing an authentic harmony world. Any last points? I want to know if anybody would like to comment. Fumza had to go, but she is doing some major work in Africa. And I also met recently a beautiful woman who's an HRH queen in South Africa, who I'm going to introduce to Fumza. There's all sorts of things going on. I want us to keep a note on that. Was that your waving hand, Robert?
My electronic applause.
Oh, thank you.
That's all.
So any last thought? What is one word that encapsulates what you feel joint custody will be? Is it an opportunity, as Fumza's son said? Anybody want to comment as we close now?
Well, I always think of, you know, I know it's cliche, but unresounding love and respect for one another, irrespective. I mean, that
Yes.
for me is a word that I always think of. When I meet people around the world, I've always experienced a genuine care and interest, that always shines through. There's never any, not very often is there animosity when I've met people. It's always a genuine exploration.
Yes. So I think let's keep the conversations going and keep the excitement.
Before,
Sorry. Tita.
Okay, sorry. Before leaving, yes, I would like to, what I had said in the past, a few minutes back, that parents have to be educated for gender equality and harmony. That
Yes.
in the same fashion, I would like to share something in my life as well, that it has been given an equal education to me and my brother, having some kind of, I have never been told that you cannot join defense, you cannot join police, you have all rights to do all those things. But the country where I grew up is India, where there are people say that, or it's in society which says that men are more valued. So looking at that, I always respected my parents, that they never had given a difference between a boy and a girl. And when a time comes for this, what happens is, when I got married, and after that we decided to adopt a baby girl. So I just wanted to cross that societal norm when they say that the men are valued or a male child is valued. So at times I was one of the example to the community that, look, girl is also very important, and she is an important ingredient of society. So we adopted a baby girl 15 years back, when she was just 9 months old, and we crossed. So in a short, what I would like to say is that we lead the examples, wherever you live in any part of the world, through music, through words, through all documentaries, you do that. But at the same time, wherever you are, you be the example to the community. It doesn't mean that everybody is adopting a child, but you are a leader. You are the example to community. So for adopting a baby girl, also from being in Canada, I adopted a baby girl from India. I crossed that societal norms many a times, that they were saying that, no, if you want to adopt, you should go for a male child. Male child will continue the race and all sort of things. I said, no, it's not the case. Male and female, both are equal. And I wanted to set myself as one of the example to community. And at the same time, in Canada as well, we have lots and lots of organizations, and where people, the adoptive parents, are waiting in line and they are looking. So we, as couple, we both help these couples to adopt a child, whether it's a male or a female. Both of them are fine. It's nothing to differentiate. So that's how you lead a community.
Absolutely. That's fabulous. That's a wonderful story. And yes, we must be the example for all to see. And that's why, so for instance, if you want to be on Dr. James Cooley's show and talk about that story, just let me know. I've got a free pass to get everybody on there who wants to share their story with the world, and it could be about your own business. But he's a great guy. And thank you all for being here. I really appreciate your time. And as I say, I hope that we'll see you all on our program on November the 1st. I'll send out a trailer on that. Christine's putting a video together. Let's see if we can create a song. I'm not a singer myself, I'm a dancer, so I won't sing, but I will encourage Jim to write something, and maybe we can just put our tendrils out and see what happens. See if we can find anybody who wants to sing with us. Oh, is that okay?
Yeah.
Thank you, Jennifer, for your questions. Thank you, Tita, for that story. Thank you, Mose, for yours, Philip, Carmen, Christine, and Hadassah.
Thank you. Pleasure. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Please keep reading my posts on LinkedIn, because we're really pushing the boat out there. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Mose.
Thank you, Dr. Pauline.